So welcome, everybody. My name is Carrie Hoffman. I am the co-director of the Region 8 Comprehensive Center, and I have the great pleasure to introduce you to our presenter today. His name is Joe Timbrook, and he is with he's worked in the economic development sector for the last 11 years, and he's currently the director of career development for the Lawrence County Economic Growth Council Workforce Coalition. After growing up in Lawrence County, he moved to California and began a lengthy career with the Broadway Macy's department stores. Joe, were you in the parade? And around Los Angeles and San Diego. Returning home to Lawrence County in 1998, he resumed his career in business and community service, serving the American Red Cross, Lawrence County Community Foundation, and Hoosier Hills Credit Union. He most recently served as the Chief Operating Officer for Radius Indiana, a South Central Indiana 8-county regional economic development organization. In his current role, Joe leads the education and workforce efforts for Lawrence County while working closely with community leaders, secondary and post-secondary institutions, elected officials, and local employers. The Lawrence County Economic Growth Council Workforce Coalition has been successful in the community, achieving state records of high school equivalency completion for the past 3 years and designing workforce and education programs, including those serving justice-involved residents and incarcerated residents. The group continues to develop an adult education system for the county that spans pre-K to post-secondary. Joe is accredited by OUEDI. I know there's a way to say that, Joe, and I don't know what it is, and is chair of the Lawrence County Community Corrections Advisory Board, volunteer for the Lawrence County Museum, and treasurer for his local church. Joe was awarded the Indiana Association of Community Corrections ACT County's Achievement Award for Advisory Board Member of the Year for 2023. And with that, Joe, I want to say welcome and get started. It's all yours.
All right. Thank you. You can hear me okay?
I can.
Great. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today. Thank you to some of the people that I recognized your name in the list. So thanks for joining me today in this presentation. We'll get my face off the screen, I think, and go further. What I'm going to talk about today is really just about one county's experience as we've endeavored to take a look at workforce and education for our particular community systematically, and really see where the strengths and weaknesses and the gaps are, and develop a system moving forward that will be sustainable, utilize resources wisely in our community, not only local resources, but regional resources, state resources. Thank you, Marilyn, for being on the call. I see you out there, and help. I guess I want to call it is kind of help direct our own destiny when it comes to workforce and education in Lawrence County. Lawrence County, Indiana, you probably have never heard of it, but you should. We're right here in the middle of South Central Indiana, one of the most garden spots, we think, of the state of Indiana. To our north is Monroe County, which is the home of Indiana University Bloomington. So that's a significant area to our north. And then to the left, you can see Martin County. Martin County is home to, it's one of the smallest counties in Indiana, but it's home to the 3rd largest naval base in the world. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in a bit. And then Orange County, just below us, if you've ever heard of French Lick and West Baden, the resort duo down in French Lick, Indiana, and West Baden, Indiana. It's amazing spot that you should always visit if you have a chance to come to Indiana. So we're in a great spot here. The map that you see on the screen is the 11 counties that belong to the Regional Opportunity Initiatives, or the Indiana Uplands, as they're also called, and they're our regional partner as we go throughout the work, and learn from them, and they learn from us throughout the process. Just a little bit more about Lawrence County. we're the limestone capital of the world, limestone country. And I left this piece up there. I'm not gonna read it all to you, but don't give up the ship is kind of our theme in Lawrence County. It's just enduring spirit that's resilient, focused, and collaborative here in our Southern Indiana community. And I would also say it's representative of Southern Indiana as a whole and the state of Indiana. Just resilient and focused, and especially collaborative. Um, People talk about rurality, I call it differently. Ours is small homes, farms, woods, and national forest property, a lot of national forest property. Um, Bedford is the county seat here in Lawrence County. Almost 30% of the population is in the city of Bedford. There are Mitchell and Oolitic are also in little towns, little city of Mitchell, little town of Oolitic are also out there. But then there are a lot of little tiny spots out in our community that really have their own identity and points of pride. And you really get to know that. We're talking in a minute about what happens when you start talking about school systems in a rural community and how important that is to the very small communities. We've had a population loss since 2010, but the good news is that is turning the tide now. And our population is beginning to increase with the last census, and so that's kind of defying the odds when it comes to that. And I also want to say that we are close to, like I said, Monroe, Martin, and Orange counties. And our major focus as far as sectors are health science, advanced manufacturing, which is huge here in Lawrence County, and defense-related jobs, which is huge with the Naval Surface Warfare Center Crane. It's hard to say that has thousands and thousands of employees in Martin County in the defense industry. Two school corporations. It's so much fun working with the school systems. And we have a career center that we're going to talk about here in a little bit. One of the things that we're proud of is just being one of the 11 counties in Indiana Uplands region, because we can't do this on our own. We have to have a lot of partners to do the things we need to do specifically for Lawrence County. And so that partnership is really important with regional opportunity initiatives or Indiana Uplands based out of Bloomington. A little bit more about the definition of rural. We're only 46,000. I don't know what your communities that you call rural population is, but ours, our current population is 46. Well over 50% don't live in a city or a town. They actually live out in the county, in townships, as we call them. And I don't know how many other states have things like townships. Indiana has a lot of them. But most of our residents in Lawrence County are out in the rural areas. As far as logistics, no nearby interstate, no public transportation to really navigate the county, minimal bus runs in the city of Bedford. The good news is the Wi-Fi accessibility is currently not quite as poor as it was, and it's getting better all the time with the focus on broadband in the nation and the state of Indiana. And so that one is really going to be helpful for us from a digital equity standpoint. And we do have one low-level hospital here in Lawrence County that really rural. They don't even do deliveries of babies. It's a 45-minute trip to Bloomington Hospital to be able to deliver a baby there. So this is our definition of rural, and this is who we are. There's a little example at the bottom, to which I referred to before. Part of we're doing the work of workforce and education rurally is working closely with the school systems. And in 2021, one of our school systems had to close 5 elementary and middle schools. And if any of you have ever been involved in consolidation, it is an exciting adventure. And it hurts. It does hurt local small communities in our area. But it also opened up the school buildings, Indiana state law, charter schools could take over those buildings. And so there are new 2 charter schools within the last 3 years in our county that were not there before. So that's certainly a change of the landscape. Had to throw this one in because you need to know that there's 3 astronauts from Lawrence County, Indiana. We're very proud of all of them. And we have a lot of events that still honor their memory. We got some professional players, but Bedford Limestone that I referred to has been used everywhere. National Cathedral in Washington, D.C., most of Indiana's 92 courthouses, and the Empire State Building, Biltmore State, just all kinds of limestone, and it still continues to grow strong. But we have some special things we're proud of here in Lawrence County. I work for the Lawrence County Economic Growth Council. It's a LEDO, as we call them in Indiana, a local economic development organization. And right there, you can see what the mission is for the Lawrence County Economic Growth Council. They revised it a few years ago, just based on the trend of what is happening in our community and in our state. I run at the Lawrence County Workforce Coalition, as it's called now, and they have a little bit of a different mission statement, and I'll get to the next screen. It talks about increasing the number of workers qualified to fill employment positions by adopting an industry-driven approach that aligns workforce needs with education and trainings and offerings. First time, I think, in the history of our community that we really took a look at what's needed and how do we fill those positions. I will tell you the Workforce Coalition started back in 2017 when the mayor was receiving a lot of feedback from substantial employers regarding they couldn't find enough skilled help. That was even before people started saying, oh, if they can just show up to work, and those kind of things. We started to hear that a lot more as the unemployment rate decreased. But out in front, she was out in front of that, and actually, I helped work with her on writing a plan and a grant. Eventually, and you can see the list of the core team. It's you don't recognize some of the names on there, but Dr. Angie Lewis, NSWC Crane, she's the top civilian technical director at NSWC Crane. We're lucky to have her on the team, as well as everyone else that is on there too. Her and I wrote a grant back in 2017 and received money for the Department of Workforce Development. And it was really to work on workforce and education in our community. And so we had about 700,000 from the state funding and about 400,000 local matching funds. That we used that money up through March 2020. And then the Lawrence County Economic Growth Council really assumed the sustainability portion from there and continues to do that to this day. So that's why we're able to have an arm like the Workforce Coalition. Most LEDOs do not have that. We're really a 3.5 man shop here for economic development, and there are a lot of LEDOs in Indiana that are 1-man shops or 1-woman shops, so we feel very proud that we were able to grow our organization to include the Workforce Coalition, especially as it pertains to business retention, business attraction, and business promotion. So it started as an arm of the Growth Council. Their goals were pretty simple. Preparing students for careers in high school. We have a North Lawrence Career Center here located in Bedford. Some states may call it vocational school still, we used to, but now they're career centers in Indiana. And ours is, we're lucky to have it here, and then the footprint here. The post-secondary attainment is really important to us as well. And those are some of the universities and colleges that we work with. And then really the big part one is the third goal was adult education and training, certifications and employments. And I think everybody, at least in our world, knows how much over the past 2-3 years, certifications have been extremely important, and developing those, naming those, and deciding what are valid certifications and which ones are. I have to say about the North Lawrence Career Center because it's my favorite place. And we do a lot of our work is done out of there. In 1974, there was another consolidation in Lawrence County, and 7 high schools went down to 1. And so that was another fun time, of course, for people during that period of time. But it's a great center out just about 4 miles east of Bedford. But it's older. They've been doing the same pathways for decades, declining attendance, equipment horribly outdated, and then interschool relationships, because there are 5 other schools besides Bedford North Lawrence that send students to this North Lawrence Career Center, and those relationships were challenging. And especially as we've learned a lot, I have over the last 5 years, the money that comes with a student from the state, it can be a source of contention when you do collaborations, and who goes with the money, where does the money go per student. So one of the first things we wanted to do was attack the North Lawrence Career Center, and we really meant attack. We completed a survey by a large group of stakeholders, which included really everybody in the community, parents of kids that attended the Career Center, parents of kids that didn't attend, administrators, teachers, and we learned a lot. So we contracted with Matt Fleck and did a 5-year strategic plan for the Career Center that is followed to this day. And based on other funds that we had received from the state, we were able to leverage our sources for updated equipment with other people's sources, like the Haas Foundation, Vincennes University. And then we also helped to freshen up the Career Center and rebrand it and run a marketing campaign. And it's been extremely successful, and they've done a great job with that. And today, just some of the results: we have record attendance at the Career Center, added 5 new pathways, and the advisory board, which once was fairly stale, or maybe more than fairly stale, is now active with giving direction to what needs to happen at the Career Center on a day in, day out, and annual basis. Another part of adult education that we were trying to figure out in Lawrence County and really take control of was we wanted to replicate something called My Cook Pathway. We didn't really have any idea of how many HSEs or GEDs, and we learned early on, right, Marilyn, that you can't use GED in a state that doesn't give the GED test. So we had to throw a few signs away and turn it over to HSE, high school equivalency. You can see with one of our yard signs that work extremely well throughout the community. There's 100 of those out in the community. And I'll show you what that attaches to in a minute. But we want to replicate My Cook Pathway. Cook Medical is a privately owned huge medical company out of Bloomington. They were paying people in the community part-time to work and part-time to get their high school equivalency equal to a full-time employee. We thought, oh my gosh, that's a great idea. We can do that. We don't really have a cook in Lawrence County, so we thought we'd do it on a countywide basis. Well, when we realized that we had 2,500 people out of the 45,000, 46,000 that I mentioned earlier that did not have their high school equivalency, we kind of went into emergency mode. And we attacked it by really discovering the process, creating a system. The process we found was really not much of a process. No offense to our contractor who was doing that for us, but there was really no marketing involved, and any person in Lawrence County, for the most part, really couldn't tell you how you could get your GED, your HSE. But we worked with our contractor and created this system where we own getmyhse.org, getmyhse.com, and students can sign up using that landing page, and it basically is a seamless system. And once they do that, I'll go to the next page real fast. You can see the page on the left hand side, which is the landing page. They go to that, sign up, super easy to do. Once they hit submit, email goes to me, to the HSE teacher, and now to another person in our office, and then we take them from there, contact them, get them signed up for orientation, and that's all done by our contractor for the most part. But that's how we that's the system we created, and you can see. Wait, go back one more. We've had record-setting numbers. We've really worked with the school system, so when they get withdrawals, they're referred to us so that they don't fall into a black hole somewhere, which is typically where we're finding some of these 2,500 people that we're trying to get back up to at least a high school equivalency. And then now we found that we've got a system in place. We're finally ready for that partnership with employers, back up to the micro pathway thing that we were willing to do in the beginning, but my gosh, we were absolutely not in a position to actually do that. But we are today. We also have had 2,500 referrals from getmyhse.org, 36 traditional orientations, 8 boot camps. That's a 3-day boot camp where they pass the basic test or a pre-test. They can get their HSE in 3 days. And we actually have, we outsource that to another contractor to do for us. And we actually pay the participants $100 if they complete their HSE in 3 days. So excited about that. And then that number continues to grow. We have a boot camp starting this Friday, and we have 18 signed up to start with the boot camp. So that's a good way to get it and a fast way to get it. The jury's out from some people on whether it works well or not. We think it does, and we are going to continue with that. A couple other things, adult education and training. What we really found out once we dug in, there's really not a formal adult education and training program. We have Work One, which is overseen by the Department of Workforce Development and in a contract system, but just really had a hard time connecting well to community resources. So our group decided to create a funnel. Work One would try to have classes, but they couldn't get enough to have a class. And so we needed to create that funnel so we could have enough to have classes and get people trained. So we created a funnel. And the first people we thought of were people that were involved in the justice system. Now, part of that is because I'm president of the Community Corrections Advisory Board, not because I got into trouble, but just because I was asked to be in that position. And so what happened was that they joined in willingly to get involved in the process. When it comes to HSE, if somebody under their care does not have a high school diploma, it is a part of their plea agreement that they have to get it. And so then they go through our system now that we have one and get that. And then the probation system gives them a 90-day cut on their probation time for completing that. We actually have a Google Doc that goes between probation officers and our teacher to always keep them up to speed who's in the system and who's doing well and that kind of thing. And then we also, using the Justice Involved system, created an introduction to local jobs and skills training. We got this idea from NSWC Crane, the military base out west here of Lawrence County. They had this program they introduced to us back in 2017. We revamped it a little bit. I tell you what they do, but I don't understand all this stuff. It has to do with overseas training and that kind of thing. But we just use kind of the guts of it. And so we created what you see on the screen in front of you, was where for 3 weeks we have these folks. They get an introduction to welding, machining, construction. They get first aid, CPR, stop the bleed certifications. They get employability skills training. They're celebrated at the end, and they get a $250 stipend for completing these three weeks. And our judges have also mandated that anyone that comes into the justice system without a job is signed up for this program. And so We manage that at this particular point in time, and we started yesterday our 15th cohort with 18 individuals, which is a lot to manage at once at the Career Center. But they already started last night on constructing a shed and making a few things in the machining area. So we're really proud of it. The results are incredible for us. And I'll talk about those in just a second. But because of the introduction of local jobs and skills, and I'm trying to stay on time, that the Indiana Department of Health has asked us to create the same kind of program, but using health sciences as a focus. So Vincennes University is right now developing a proposal for the same kind of thing that you see on the screen, but not manufacturing focused, but health science focused, because manufacturing and health sciences are two of our biggest needs for employees in not just Lawrence County, but the area surrounding Lawrence County as well. We finished 14 cohorts. Takes 60 hours to do the training. We're now about a 50-50 split between, because we use it as a funnel. And so now we're about a 50-50 split between just community folk and justice involved folk. But the best part about it is once they're done with that, and then we sit down with them and talk about next steps. One of the things that are the next steps with Indiana, we have a thing called next level jobs in certain categories. And those are free trainings to those who qualify, and nearly everyone does. So once they're done with our intro class, they can go into a 48-hour welding class, construction class, machining class here, all handled locally and just put into place within the past 2 years. I'm with another one of our contractors. Some of the exciting numbers for us is, the county recidivism rate is 35%, but the participants from ILJAS, what we call ILJAS, is 6%. I will also tell you that Carrie mentioned I received a reward for community corrections. Our prosecutor, who I'm not sure always tells the truth, but he said we were partially responsible for a 47% reduction in the population of the jail. So whatever the truth is on that, we know we're making a dent and helping the community out as. So then doing all that work, we got another opportunity. IU Health came out with a community impact investment grant opportunity. We jumped on it. We started adding more and more community partners to our network, and you can see right here. Once we got them all together, we created our own ecosystem called Workforce and Education and Trauma Informed Care Community Ecosystem. Those are all of the folks that are involved and the leaders of those particular things. And everybody agreed these are the things that we need to do with workforce and education and make a dent all the way from birth to supporting adults as they go throughout life, especially with the trauma-informed care in purple at the bottom. We wrote a grant to IU Health for 1.7 million. Out of that grant, they agreed to funds for these particular, the green and the yellow categories to be able to fund the things that we wanted to do with those. So all kinds of objectives for those, really all about preparing students for careers as early on as possible, achieving the post-secondary attainment of 60% Lumina Foundation goal, Indiana's goal. We're at 33%. So our goal isn't even 60. Our goal is really 45 because we know we can't, get to 60 that quickly necessarily. But by starting down with literacy and high school equivalencies, we know we can build that base and go from there. It really is all about higher quality of life for our residents. And so whether they're unemployed or underemployed, getting them on the track to something that is that will help them support their families more. And I'm not going to lie, from an economic development standpoint, because that's who I work for, more taxes and more taxpayers in our community as well. Some people get a little bit offended when I say that, but really that's what it boils down to, so that we can provide more services to our friends and neighbors here locally. one of the biggest things that was cool that we've been working on is it says 7 to 12 grades, but then we changed it as we moved along. We've got the two school systems working together, which is a miracle, but they are creating a what we call college and career readiness curriculum, or to working with local employers, so that everybody, all the employers in our community have the same conversations with both schools when it comes to training and education and that kind of thing. And it's going extremely well. And you can see some of the things that are on there that we are working through. We've paid stipends to teachers to help us develop this and create ownership in the community. There's other things that are coming up with videos and other tools that the schools can use. And so still a lot of work to do, but those are some more of the plans that we continue to work on. And we have funding now through 2026 for sure. So we've got some time still to do it. This is just part of the Regional Opportunity Initiatives group for that college ready, career ready continuum. They've had 4 day-long meetings now, and I'm getting ready to present it to our advisory board. But that's the kind of collaboration that we were talking about within our community and within our region. Both schools are excited that they have the opportunity to actually work together on our project. Young adults, one of the biggest things is we got to hire. We ended up not calling it a young adult outreach coordinator. It was just a community education coordinator, but it's Kathy. I know she's on this call as well. We're glad to have her aboard, and she is helping the rest of us move these things forward. Wi-Fi is getting better, like I said before. We're working with Purdue Manufacturing Extension Partnership to do. We did 3 programs in the jail over the past 2 years with over 60 participants, and getting them 80 hours worth of manufacturing training before they left jail. And then we're continuing to work on apprenticeship programs, challenging, but again, helping really more on a regional basis and ROI, helping us through that process. The things we didn't get funded in that grant that we asked for to IU Health are the things that are circled in red: birth K through 5, the family supports and trauma-informed care. I'm here to tell you right now, we've got funding for all of those now to get to that 1.7 that we asked for. But it took a collaboration and us leveraging each other to get the support and the resources that we needed. The other thing that came in conjunction with our grant for IU Health, because all this has been a little overwhelming, frustrating, overwhelming. I could use about 10 different adjectives or whatever. But we also then received a grant from a group called Civic Lab out of Columbus, Indiana. If you know who they are, they're working with Ascendium. I'm sure you know who Ascendium is. We were one of 5 counties in the United States to receive a grant for building rural community learning systems. And thank goodness that we did, because it helped us with structure. It's easy as a community to kind of get scattered and everybody go in different directions. That didn't help us or that didn't happen for us. You can see this is just a picture of some of the work that we were doing, the core team there that worked with that. We talked a lot about transforming a system and how that involves relationships, system redesign, and then solving for one and extending for many. And I'm not going to go into a lot more detail because I'm trying to stay on time. But if you ever have a chance or opportunity to connect with Dakota Palicki from Civic Lab, or Jack Hess or John Burnett, get involved with them. They teach you how to get things done. There's our group that there you can see just the different places. And again, the collaborative effort of all of the people that work. Library especially is one of our pride and joys in the community, and how they work with us as well. And the Boys and Girls Club. We have tons of industry partners and governmental and whatever through this. And again, building relationships. And so I can say today that all these people are continuing to be partners with us and helping us through the system building process. So what we did with Civic Lab, they made us come up with a guiding question, and it took 2 days to make a question. And so there it is. How might we work together to prepare Lawrence County community members for college careers and civic life in a rapidly changing workforce society? And the goals were creation and implementation of the local community education advisory board. Oh my gosh, if there's anything we needed to do, and you might need to do, is create that board that really is the central focus of everything workforce and education in the community. I'll show you a picture of what that looks like in a second. But once people buy into that, they make the decisions on the things that happen in our community. As far as, do we need this kind of workforce or education or training, or will it help us in our community? They're also helping us with branding and messaging, because one of the hardest things we find is, how do you get the word out in the community that these things are going on? So a company called Smallbox is helping us with that. Again, that was funded by Civic Lab, and come up with some great things. I'll show you that real quick in a minute. And then one of the coolest things is a strategic plan with Ivy Tech Community College in Bloomington. So Ivy Tech will do the things we ask them to do, and not do the things that we don't need them to do. Really have our own strategic plan. So we're tickled about that as we move forward. Some of these are still in process. We have facilitating ROI facilitating groups for us, and so that everybody's bought into exactly what is happening in each of these areas. This is kind of what was designed out of that, and it's a big wonky bunch of stuff, but basically we have the Lawrence County Community Education Advisory Board committees out of those. One that I really want to point out is the metrics committee, because this group is coming up with, how is our entire Lawrence County community going to measure how well we're doing with workforce and education. So that's in process right now, and we'll be excited to see how that comes out. You can see the 4 people the 4 groups at the top were involved. At the bottom there, we've got Kathy now as our community education coordinator. And then we just have a little bit of a diagram that keeps changing, but like kind of how the on-ramps, off-ramps can happen, and how we're going to kind of direct them to happen as we move forward with the work that we are doing. And again, as we learn more, things change. Just got to tell you about branding and messaging. Smallbox was the group. They came down, they did some focus groups for us, interviews with judges, attorneys, superintendents, business owners, and came back to us with what they learned. And then we've created a toolkit. They've created a toolkit for us that really has the greatest foundational brand story that we would never have written in our lives here locally, and then how to message learners, partners, and the general public. So when we want to get the word out, we now have a map of what we could use to be able to do that. We didn't think we needed that until we found out we really needed that. And so we're really excited moving forward with that. Our marketing committee is finalizing the approval of all those things in the next couple of weeks. And that really is all I have. I really tried to stay to well, 30 minutes. I didn't joke, but that's what we're doing. That's what we're working on. We're proud of our community. We're proud of the collaboration that our community is doing together and doing well. And we've got tons more results coming through. So with that, Carrie, I'll be quiet and let you take it from there.
First of all, wow, that was amazing. Amazing. Thank you so much for the background and the story of the county and all of the facts about the astronauts and the limestone. I mean, yeah, you really set us up to understand the context of where you are. And so thank you for that. And again, just such impressive efforts. Holy cow, the work that you guys have done. So I'm going to just kind of open it up for questions. If anybody has any, you can either pop them in the chat or you can come off mute.
I've got a question.
Great.
Joe, what advice would you give to others in terms of wanting to do some similar kinds of collaborative efforts?
It's about relationships. and you have to build them, and it takes a while to build them. And you better have your patience pants on when you talk about that. And when I talked about the coalition core team in the very beginning, those are very influential folks in our community that helped us build those relationships. And some of us have been in the economic development world for a while, so had a lot of relationships established. And our overarching organization, the Growth Council, their board of directors, really very supportive in the process. But it really starts with relationships, and you've got to be able to utilize those. Sometimes we go to networking events and wonder, what do we really get out of it necessarily? We get something out. We get a new partner every time we go to a networking event. And I think you just got to, two things probably: focus on relationships and have patience, because this is not fast work at all. It is very time consuming. Faces change, as you go through time, and just hold on tight and communicate, and build relationships.
Joe, we have a question in the chat from Caitlin. Did you face any resistance to this approach, and how did you handle it if you did have any?
So do I have to be totally truthful in the answer to this question?
Yes.
Just question. Oh my, absolutely. And in small communities, which a lot of organizations are part of, bigger regional kind of groups like United Way, for example. But we're lucky we have Kim from United Way involved with us. But everybody has their own silo and has their own thing, and of course they have their boards and their people to report to. But we have to continue to communicate them, get them in, and that's where we finally got that colored chart, so everybody knew kind of where they fell and agreed to where they fell. No more what we call wild ducking on stuff, and we find out after the fact that something's going on. We stick together, share that information. It's not easy, and some you got to reel in a little bit from time to time, and we just have to be okay with that. And then, but listen to and try to figure out the reason that you do get that pushback, because everybody wants resources, but what we're trying to do is do it together, so the resources that are available are used wisely and together versus duplicated and used in other ways.
Yeah, thank you for that. And Caitlin's comment in the chat was that she appreciates your candor, and it helps us to help those that we serve to navigate these things more effectively. So thank you for that. Other questions?
I will tell you, don't be afraid to make people mad. My boss, I can't say on here what the term that he uses for me sometimes, but I'll ask questions and stir it up a little bit to try to, and not to do anything that makes anybody mad, but everybody's got their territory. And so you have to be very careful, when we're talking, asking questions. Work one was one, and Marilyn, I think is still on the call from work one from the state of Indiana. And man, I caused some aggravation because I asked a lot of questions and asked why we do that this way and that way, and how come we can't report it this way, and those kind of things. And so don't be afraid. Do it with your best heart. But sometimes it doesn't always come across that way. But ask questions. Nobody knew what was happening with all these things in Lawrence County as a community. So we just had to start digging in. And then when we saw what we found, we realized we have to fix this together. We have to get this going together.
For sure. Heather said, amazing, that's a lot of cats to herd.
You have no idea. We have so many advisory boards and that kind of thing that we spend a lot of time calendarizing meetings and who's doing what when and that kind of thing. But really, it's not it's not the Growth Council doing this thing. We are just we've just got our arms around the big thing, and herd those cats the best that we can, but not always. I mean, it can be challenging.
I'm curious of other regions have reached out to you to learn what you've done so that maybe they can replicate it or sort of replicate it?
Oh, absolutely. Well, the Indiana Uplands region, or ROI, as I talked about before, we work extremely closely with them. They are just the best partners. And so they're working on taking some of the things that we're doing and making them available in the other 10 counties in our 11 county region. In fact, HSE program, we're helping replicate that in Orange County now, just to our south. And so, yeah, absolutely. It's there are things that can be done. Anybody can have a get my hse.org page. You know, we'll share it with anybody that wants to, and just put your county on there, and they'll click, and the email goes to your county's coordinator. You know, I mean, there's just so many things that can be done. So we're in the middle of working on that, but we haven't been doing this a long time. I mean, realistically, 2 years has been most of the activity, 2.5 years.
Yeah, and you've made a lot of, gotten a lot of traction in that short amount of time. Heather wanted to know if you have shared your justice system data with other justice systems across the state.
Yes.
Or even across the country.
Yeah, across the state, yes. Being part of the Community Corrections Advisory Group for the state is helpful. I've got a judge that texts me on Sundays and wants to know how many house or HSEs we have in so far for the month. And I'm just really committed people in our area that they talk to other judges and their peers about what we're doing. And so Du Bois County, just south of us, is working on a version of what we're doing. And I think as we continue to grow and expand, others will see the interest. The introduction to local jobs and skills is the one. We try to do everything for free that we can, like HSE, literacy, and that kind of thing. But the introduction to local jobs and skills is not a state-funded program. So that's where we do fundraising to make sure that we're able to sustain up to our 15th cohort so far.
Gotcha. Maybe just as a kind of a last kind of question, where do you see this going in the next 10 years? You could wave a magic wand and have whatever you wanted to happen. What would it look like?
That we'll continue to have an advisory group that will determine what needs to happen with workforce and education in Lawrence County, and kind of be the gatekeeper to a certain degree to make sure we stay on track with what's needed locally, because that really is extremely important, especially keeping people here to live, so we increase our population and increase our taxes. And also, I think that everybody will knows their role. So the Workforce Coalition can cease to exist maybe at some point in time if we can get it to the point where everybody just has the role that they play in the community, and it continues to go like that. We don't want any more staff at the Growth Council. we want people responsible for each one of these things in our community and do a great job, and we'll be the support mechanism to do that.
Right. Well, I want to commend you and I know everybody on this call is just blown away with the work that you guys have done. And I want to say very genuinely, thank you for sharing your story with us. Very inspiring for sure.
You're welcome. This is what we live every day. I've been living it for almost 6 years now, and I thought it'd be hard to talk about it, but you really can't shut me up. But we've made mistakes. Don't get me wrong. Don't be afraid to make mistakes, and don't be afraid to try something and go, crap, that didn't work. What do we do? But it helps us really see the gaps, and get those gaps filled. Because if you don't do it as a group, you're not going to get them filled in your rural community. Maybe in an urban community setting, but rural, very challenging.
Right. Well, thanks everybody for joining us today. Watch the Region 8 website for the link to the recording in the not too distant future, and watch for our upcoming webinars this spring. So thanks, Joe.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.
Thanks.